influence on me has deeply contributed to who I am today. My dad traveled a lot when I was growing up, and we moved often. But I remember when he was home, he would give me a piggyback ride up the stairs for bed. I remember the night that he said I was getting too heavy. I was slightly devastated. I remember one time when I lost a tooth, he was not very smooth at bedtime with the quarters. One of his favorite sayings, I remember, was, "Come over here and I'll pick you up." That taught me that he would always have my back, but I had to put the work in too. My dad showed me the world, literally. Because of him, I've been to 12 countries and have had so many opportunities that most teenagers did not have. He showed me the pyramids, the Mona Lisa, the markets of Hong Kong, and so much more. It's because of him and a conversation in a taxi cab in London that I went to boarding school, where I met my husband of almost 30 years today. He taught me to appreciate art, culture, food, and other ways of life. He and my brother introduced me to scuba diving as a kid. He supported my sister with her horseback riding adventures, and he went to Mount Everest with my brother. He took me to the 1984 Olympics when they were in LA. My dad was never one to really share his feelings. He didn't like a lot of commotion. He was very practical. We talked very little about death and what he thought happened after you die. I'm not really sure what his beliefs were, but I know his wife Mary asked him about heaven once, and his response was he only wanted to go there if his dog Odin would be there too. And Dad, I know that you're out there somewhere with Odin now, and I want you to give him a scratch for me.
Thank you, Laura.
And he felt really safe with Odin. Odin was, when he was working in the studio, Odin was there. I mean, he's a protector dog, and you could see emotion and connection he had that was so safe with this dog. And so I said to him, okay, I knew the vet when we had to put Odin down, and so the vet gifted me with this nice box of Odin's ashes, and I said, would you want Odin's ashes mixed in with some of yours? And his face totally lit up. And so I talked to Hoover and Weaver, and they said, okay. And so Odin's ashes are mixed with Bob's, and Laura and I are going to take Bob and Odin traveling wherever we go. So I'd share that. I normally don't share about Odin's ashes, but I thought it after what she said. Bob loved, I introduced him to one of my favorite poets. I don't know where the book is though. Oh, here they are. And I'll just read one, but I'm going to ask after I do this if anybody'd like to share a Bob story, because that's a way, he knows all of you in different ways, and so you hear a little bit more. I'm so glad that Laura shared her part, because you didn't know that part. But I introduced him to a poet who's been local probably 5 or 6 times, but he's known all over, and his name is David White. And so I introduced Bob to David White actually when we were in the Bay Area, and every time we went to a movie, he fell asleep. I mean, it didn't matter what the movie was, I'd look over and he'd sound asleep. And so I thought, this is gonna be tough. I wanted to see David, and I had a friend in the Bay Area, and he was anxious to see David White too, and I thought, oh, well, he'll get a little nap. And then David started doing the poetry thing, and he also recited other people's, and normally that doesn't sound like a real exciting thing to do to probably some people, but I looked over at Bob and he was riveted, wide open. My friend was dozing off. And he was amazingly riveted with that poetry. So we ended up spending 2 weeks with a group of 45 people in Ireland, traveling all over, and it was quite amazing. And John O'Donoghue was with us too. I don't know if you know who he was. But I found he had marked this poem, so I thought I would would read that one. This one's by David White. One day I will say, the gift I once had has been taken. The place I have made for myself belongs to another, and the words I have sung are being sung by the ones I would want. Then I will be ready for that voice and the still silence in which it arrives. And if my faith is good, and we'll meet again on the road, and we'll be thirsty and stop and laugh and drink together again from the deep well of things as they are. He had marked that one. So anyone wants to share a Bob story? So
Known Bob as IBM executive. I've known him as an investor. That's how we work together. I've known him as an artist. And I've known him, as we've all known him, as a gentleman. And I just want to comment on that. The word gentleman, he epitomized it. It comes to us from the Latin through the Old French, and it really meant a nobleman, but not noble as from the king on down, but a person that was high by virtue of his own virtues and leadership, and dignity. And so anyway, that, if somebody said, hey, real quick, describe Bob Libutti, I'd say he's a gentleman of the highest quality. So anyway, I've been blessed, we've all been blessed to know Bob Libutti, the gentleman. Thank you.
That's life.
But I just wanted to say, mostly I knew Bob from Yalapa. And the interesting thing about Bob was that sometimes you didn't think he was listening or were paying attention when we'd be sitting around in the waves and everything. And then he would make these little comments, and if you really stopped and listened, it was like he had a sense of humor that was brilliant. He had something funny to say about almost everything, which most people missed because, you know, you had to sort of like, what? But it was always right there. His humor, his sense of humor always blew me away when you listen to him. That's
you know who knew his humor also was, but
oh yeah.
he had, they had their own little thing with sarcasm and.
If you listen to him, he was really funny.
We all knew Bob a lot from Yalapa, and Tom and I shared in this. And it just came to me, and it was such a unique thing with Bob, because he got to where he would walk really slow. Everywhere we'd go, whatever, we'd all take turns walking with him, because he was just afraid to, got to where he was just afraid to fall, and he was scared. We had a lot of different moments with him over the years, but there was one night, this is about 4 years ago, and we were up at one of the restaurants we go to, which is like a mile up the road from where we were, and where we were staying, and it was at night, and Bob decided to, he says, well, I'm gonna get up and start back. And he told Tom and I, because we've been walking with him, he said, I'm gonna get on and start back, because you know, you guys will catch up with me, and it won't be long. So he takes off, and Tom and I were there probably for another, I don't know, 10 minutes, whatever we were finishing doing up, 10, 12 minutes. And he had a little light on the back of his hat. It was this little red light. I forget, it was a little bright little light. You could see him off in the distance. And he was, you know, he was, that's how he would walk. And it was a long way back, so we had plenty of time. So Tom and I get out on the thing, and we look down the big path, and we don't see the little red light. And we're thinking, uh-oh, where's the little red light? So we're walking, we start walking faster, we're looking over the side, did he stop and do this, did he do this? We keep walking, and we don't see him. And we're walking good pace now, we're Bob, you know, Bob, we're kind of, you know, over here, did he stop, or did he go, all of a sudden, way up the right, so, Tom, no, there's a little red light. And suddenly Tom goes, that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. So we're walking. We're going, how did he get up here? How did he get up here? So we come behind him, and he is like, he's motating. So Tom and I get up beside him as he's walking, and we go, Robert, and he goes, and he stopped next to me. He says, "How did you get down here? What's going on? Look at you, look at you." I said, "Well, you're looking at me." He says, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, what's happened?" He said, "Well, this happens." He says, "I'm not afraid." He says, "This happens every once in a while. My fear is gone. I feel like myself." That was just
Amazing, amazing.
Married to Sarah. And for me, Bob was a mentor and kind of a surrogate father. My father passed away when I was young. And so after Sarah and I got together and I got a chance to meet Mary and Bob, Bob and I had a lot of great conversations about all sorts of stuff. I unfortunately didn't get to know him when he was super active in terms of skiing, and I was kind of at the tail end of his running or scuba diving, but we had shared a lot of passions together. I was very young in my career. I'm in the wine industry, and I'd have some questions for Bob with given his business acumen, and he was just an amazing source of just reference. So he was definitely that presence for me as I was in my 20s, 30s, and into my 40s. So I feel very blessed to have known. Sorry. To have known his presence. So, with that, namaste, Bob.
Thank you very much.
It's an iris. You'd think I know, but it's in our bedroom, and I can just see it when I get up in the morning. And that was a gift from Bob and Mary that Bob had painted.
We still have lots of time here, so there's a bit of food and just enjoy each other's company. But they're him excited, and the instructor had this 12 steps for doing a painting, and I don't know that there's a copy of that here. We're going through so much stuff.
I think it's in the book.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I bet he has
I
it in there. Okay.
think I saw it.
And so he would go even in Yulapa, he did a 12 steps for a painting class he did, and certain people like Claudia said they did their best painting when they did his 12 steps. And he was adamant about that. But I have another very good friend who's passed away, Phil Brown, and he just had a fit when he saw those 12 steps. But it did get people going. Anyway, so that's in here if anybody's interested. So please enjoy the food. There's coffee and I don't know what else here. But it's also nice to see, it's also nice to see people. I haven't been out much. I was coming here every day for the last 6 years, just about. And so to see all of you from different places at once is really, really nice. And he would have loved coming here. Yeah. So maybe he did.
Yeah, well, we would love him here too.
Mary, I guarantee you, there are dogs in heaven.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Very sweet.